You are watching Conscious Evolution with Wes Heffernan.
And each one of the archangels holds a particular reference point within that structure that allows us as human beings to separate ourselves into our own unique experience and expression of the whole, of the one. And so that was probably the first thing that I saw when I went in there, and I didn't know. It was my second time going. It's been a while, probably 20 years since I've been, but okay. I didn't realize, or had forgotten, I guess, that there was a museum in the basement area of the archway. And while I was walking in, asking myself, well, I wonder how this is all going to play together. The first thing I see is mound builders. Well, we are standing here in the Manifest Destiny section that drew most of my attention as I walked in. I'm looking here at this wall. What story is told in these paintings? Storytelling. What do you see in the story? And that man, like I don't know if there's a way to put into words a better description of telling a story and bringing it to life, and how when storytelling went away, we begin to live in a two-dimensional world. There's no depth to it. There's no real knowing and understanding the stories we have today, or at least that revolve around our belief systems, around our religions. They're two-dimensional. There's no depth to them. It's a static this or this. And when we told stories in the ancient times, we were able to bring that information to life. Those that had become, that had fulfilled that information to knowledge, to understanding, to fulfillment, those that had taken that journey could then share those stories and paint a verbal picture that would allow you to see internally the true nature of our existence and reality. Right, I mean, we're heading to the Southwest desert with the birth, the cradle, or the birthplace of consciousness for the Native Americans is the Four Corner States area of the Southwest. And so I knew this Native American aspect was going to come into play eventually. I didn't know exactly how, but right there it shows itself as a little hint of things to come. We run into the mound builders, and so that was pretty neat and completely unexpected. I let go of expectations. That was one of the big things that I had learned over time, is expectations is what causes pain and suffering.
Especially the time area of the museum in Detroit, and you had expectations.
Right.
So you let go of those.
Let go of them completely and began just living, right? Just allowing myself to be in the story that we were creating during this journey. The creative process, just being in it, and it was pretty cool, And after we left the archway, the repercussions of visiting the archway really began presenting themselves to me, and so what I began seeing was, okay, well, you have to insert yourself into that environment, into that experience, right? But then you also need to pull yourself back out of it and reflect, right? And so, A to B, like, how do you get there? Like, how do you move from A to B, and what does that represent, right? And so, everything between point A and point B is an unknown, and you need to insert you may know where you are and you may know where you're going, but to have expectations of what that journey is going to be is you're setting yourself up for failure, right? Because who am I to say what I should experience in that journey, right? Like the journey itself should tell me what I need to know in order to get there. And so this concept, it's really a dualistic concept or a binary concept. The first one being, how do you get from A to B? Well, you move, right? You follow the path. And it's like, well, how do you know you're following the path? Well, you look for the signs. And like, we're literally driving down Route 66 at this point in time. So what is the theme for week 2 of a journey across America? Well, I was actually just filming a little piece for Traveling Builders, and it became apparent. It's about following the path. You know, you have A and B, you have that space in between. In week 1, we kind of came to understand what that process is about, but like, what does it mean to live in the moment and to live in that process? Well, it means to follow the path. Seems so simple, and I know that, but it's kind of what I'm talking about and trying to bring this process to life through the story, even for myself, in ways that I haven't ever experienced before, even in 3+ decades. So for week 2, our theme is following the path. You know, how do you get from A to B? Well, you follow the path. Well, how do you know you're following the path? Well, you look for the signs. And like, well, how do you know what the signs are? Well, anything that moves you, right? But if it's moving you, you give attention to it. If you give attention to it, then you're adding something to it, and it creates gravity, and that pulls you towards it. And so then it's not so much about looking for the signs as it is just, you know, feeling the signs and allowing the journey to move you in that direction. And while it's doing so, again, purpose and intent. Why is this happening? What are you showing me? Right? And these questions, you know, what am I looking for? And it was as if I was carrying on a conversation with someone, right? There was a conversation, without a doubt, going on within myself, with myself. And one of the interesting things that changed during this portion was, you know, I've spoke about this voice in chapter 1 several times, but it was always very masculine in nature. Liken it to Archangel Michael, Abraham Lincoln, you know, but it's masculine in nature. Well, it changed during this trip, and it became very matriarchal. Like, it was Mother Earth. It was the native matriarchal spirits. You know, at this point, we're in Oklahoma, heading towards the Four Corner States. We're in this cradle, this area that the Native Americans call the birthplace of consciousness and civilization, not just for this country, but for the world, right? And she, I'm gonna refer to her as she, was right there, boom, bush, a question, answer, but it wasn't as if she was answering a question, she was just directing my next question, right? And so there was so much going on with, at this point, having gone to the museum, having gone to St. Louis and to the Archway, and you know, how do you get from A to B, and you know, the ideas of the path and the signs. And
the sign is not physical, it's a feeling.
It's a feeling, yeah. And I mean, it could be anything. It could be, you know, looking at this particular mountain and just gaze upon it and ponder and think and reflect. And it was more about the conversation that was occurring within me than it was the actual physical nature of some sign. And of course, you know, there are signs. You've got to watch, hey, Route 66 turns right here.
Right.
You know, I'm following Route 66, so I need to turn. So there is a physical nature to it, for sure. But that's not the only aspect that was at work. And so, you know, again, you have this physical, mental, and emotional, the Trinity shows up again, aspect to how do you get from A to B. And
she was your guide.
And she was, for sure, guiding me through this process of understanding what was going on in within the structure of the purpose and intent of what this journey was about.
Thanks for watching. Join us next time on Conscious Evolution. Don't forget to subscribe.